All right, welcome to the call tonight, everybody. This is Mission Impossible Tuesday night training tips. And tonight we're going to be talking about how to address some common objections that we're going to come across and how to handle when we have skeptical people. And I thought I'd start off by just giving kind of some general information, and then we'll address some of those common ones that we hear most often. And then I promise we'll wrap that up in less than 30 minutes, and then we'll just have some Q&A at that point. If you want to hop off, you totally can. But if you have questions, feel free to stay on and ask those. So the first thing, I asked John what I should share tonight about overcoming objections, and he said, diamonds don't let objections get in their way. That's it. Any questions? He says, that's all the training? No, he was just totally being facetious. But in general, just know that you're going to come across objections. In fact, in a lot of books that I've read, when you have somebody with no objections, that's actually a bad sign. That usually means that they're not genuinely interested. So if you have somebody with a lot of objections, that's good. That means that they're thinking about it. So don't be discouraged by that. Usually when people have objections, whatever their first objection is, that's not usually the real problem. So they might come out with, oh, I can't afford it, a price issue, and that might not even really be the problem. It's that they have some other deep-seated fear. So a lot of times, the first thing you want to know when you have objections is you've got to learn to ask a lot of questions, because most people will not tell you the real reason that they're objecting to it the first time around. You're going to have to ask multiple questions and have a conversation before the real issue really comes out. It's usually objections are just a cry for more information. So I want to give you a couple of tools that I have found really helpful because they're simple and they're broad. So you can use them no matter what objection you get. You can use these tools for any of those. And it's really helped to give me more confidence as I'm sharing about Plexus. My favorite tool for addressing objections or concerns is the feel, felt, found method. So I'm sure some of you have already heard this, and the reason I think I like it is because for me this comes really natural. I didn't even realize that I was already doing this with some objections until I heard it pointed out in a training. So no matter what the objection is, you say, I know how you feel. I have felt the same way too, but what I found was, and then you offer a solution to that objection. So again, it doesn't matter which objection you're looking at. For example, the one I probably come up against the most and that I found that I was using this feel, felt, found method on was pricing. So when somebody says to me, oh yeah, I'm interested, but I just, my budget's tight and I just think it's gonna be too expensive for me. My typical response is something along the lines of, yeah, I totally know how you feel. When I was first looking into Plexus, I felt the exact same way. You know me. I'm the coupon queen. I buy everything on clearance. We don't even buy new clothes. We buy almost all used clothes. I'm the total thrift store queen. So you know me. I'm a penny pincher. I totally know how you felt. But what we found is once we started using Plexus, we quit buying soda. We quit buying a lot of processed food like chips and cookies, which are really expensive. I quit going to happy hour at Sonic 3 and 4 times a week all summer long and stopping at the Snow Shack 3 and 4 times a week, which when I have 5 kids in tow, gets really pricey because I have to get something for all of them. I can't just get myself a treat. I found that our food budget was actually coming down and that by kicking those habits, we were actually saving money. So that's kind of how I describe it. Or I'll say, I found this, and I know a lot of my other friends have found that they no longer need their coffee, or they no longer need their daily soda habit, or, whatever. And it just kind of points that out to them and gets them thinking in a different line. So that feel, felt, found, that can be used for anything. The other kind of general tool I wanted to share with you is something I heard in a previous training. It's called the Plexus Shield of Confidence. And I really like this one. I'm going to try to share my screen with you real quick to show you what I'm talking about. Let's see if it'll work tonight. Hold on. I think I've got like a million windows open right now, so let me close a few and then maybe it'll let me share the one I actually want to share. Sorry, technical difficulties. Maybe. There we go. That might be it. Let's see. is it not working? Ah, no fair. All right, let's see. Let's see if that worked. All right. Oh, now I can't see you guys to see if you can see it. Okay, looks like I'm showing it now. So hopefully you can see it. Can someone unmute themselves real quick and just tell me if you can see my screen?
We've got it.
Okay,
Yeah, you
awesome.
can see it.
Looks good.
Okay, thanks. All right, so here's the Plexus Shield of Confidence. It's made up of 4 points. The first one is that we have this awesome 60-day money-back guarantee. That is good on all products forever, and that it's no hassle. If you don't like the product for any reason whatsoever, you can get your money back at the end of 60 days. The second point that we need to remember is that even though there may not be scientific studies on the products as a whole, there is a huge body of scientific evidence out there behind the ingredients in our Plexus products. I'll go back over that in a minute. The third point to remember is that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of online testimonies from real people who have been using the products. And the company's been around long enough that when people are concerned about safety issues, for example, I'm like, you know, by now, if there was real safety issues with this, there'd be a ton of lawsuits against Plexus. Like it would have come out by now because these products have been around, you know, long enough that we would know if there was a problem. And then the fourth point is that we've had phenomenal growth of the company. You know, it's kind of like the whole buy your fruits. You may know them, whether it's good or bad thing. You can tell by the fruit, whether it's good or bad. You know, a company does not grow this successfully in such a short period of time if there isn't something to the products. So if you can remember, you don't have to know everything about Plexus to be really confident when you share. If you can remember these 4 things and you have your own experience with the products and you know at least 1 or 2 other people's stories, this can be extremely powerful, again, no matter which objection you get. So no matter what question, like it says on the screen, no matter what question or objection you get from people, your answer, if someone comes to you and says, well, but there's just a lot of supplements out there, and so why should I use these supplements? Instead of engaging in an argument or a battle, which is the last thing you want to do, just answer, I don't know much about that, but what I do know is, and then you pick one of these 4 points, depending on what the objection is, and your story told in less than 2 minutes, and possibly 1 to 2 other stories to back up your point. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example on this one. For example, someone asked today on the team page, they said that they have a lot of friends who are either breastfeeding or pregnant. I totally get that. I have 5 kids and I'm still in that stage of life where a lot of my friends are pregnant or breastfeeding. And so a lot of their friends are coming to them with that concern. I don't want to take the products because I'm breastfeeding or pregnant. And when someone brings up that objection to me, one of the 4 points on the shield of confidence that I would use is that the ingredients themselves are very natural, very safe ingredients with a lot of scientific research behind them. And then I share my story. You know, I share my story about when I first started Plexus. I was breastfeeding. I had a 4-month-old baby who exclusively breastfed. And in fact, I was struggling with my milk supply. And because of that, she was almost listed as failure to thrive. From her 2 to 4 month appointment, she gained no weight. When I started Plexus when she was 4 months old, from her 4 to 6 month old appointment, she gained 3 pounds, which the doctors were thrilled about. My milk was overflowing after months of struggling with milk supply. And when I took the ingredients to adopt, and then I usually share a couple more stories that when many of my friends have taken these ingredients in their products to the doctors and asked them to look over these products. I say my friend Rachel Johns had her son's endocrinologist look at it and approve the products before she started taking them. I also say that, my other friend Ashley had her OBGYN and her, I'm going to get this wrong, her OBGYN, her lactation specialist, her pediatrician, and somebody else. She had a 4th person look at it and approve the products while she was nursing and while she was pregnant. So that way, that's what I can share. I can share that You know, the ingredients are safe and natural, and there's a lot of scientific evidence behind it. And I send them the list of all the ingredients, and then I share a couple of stories. So no matter what objection you get, if you can just know these 4 things about the company, and you know your own story and a couple of other stories, this is going to be a really great resource for you to use. And I will make sure that I share this on the team page as well. So you guys can refer back to that if you have any questions. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything important. One other just general tip that I've learned in the last 2 years. Again, I think sometimes we get really nervous when we first get started sharing. We think, oh, someone's going to ask me a question and I don't know the answer. And when someone does raise an objection or bring up something negative, we get really flustered and defensive and we're not sure what to say. When we sell the products or the business opportunity to anybody, what really sells it is our conviction and our passion, not your extensive knowledge of the ingredients. Now, that being said, you learning about the ingredients over time is going to build your own shield of confidence. It's going to make you more confident in talking about the products and the opportunity. But in the end, you can know everything there is to know about it. And if you yourself don't have a sense of conviction and passion and confidence about you, then you're not going to be successful. Those things are actually more important than having a whole bunch of knowledge. So, don't be afraid to go ahead and share your enthusiasm and your passion, even if you feel like you don't have every answer right now. Most people will be very respectful of the fact if you just say, you know what, I haven't come up against that question yet. Let me look into it and I'll get back with you. There's no shame in that. Someone will rather have you answer their question correctly than to try to fake your way through it. So you always have that safety net. You've got an awesome team page, tons of leaders who are willing to help you out if you ever come up against something that you're unsure what the answer is. Okay, how are you on time? Good. We're going to just briefly go over a couple of the common objections that we hear. And then if anybody wants to pipe in on any of these and share what you tell people when these come up, please feel free to unmute yourself. I'd love to hear some other people's ideas too. So we talked briefly about the breastfeeding and pregnancy. I do feel like when it comes to breastfeeding and pregnancy, we have to be really careful. This is such a personal decision. And so I always make sure that I let people know when they ask me about this and they bring this up as a concern, I always let them know, let me tell you what my feelings on it are. But in the end, this is 100% your decision and I respect that. You know, they have to feel comfortable themselves after doing their own research. So as I mentioned, I will often share several testimonials of people who have taken the ingredients into their doctors and have them approved. I think that's really powerful because it's showing not just one doctor approving it, but multiple doctors approving it. The other thing that I share is the ingredients list. And there is a really good document. I've posted it multiple times on the team page. You can find it under the files. If you have any troubles finding it, message me or let me know and I'll repost it on the team page so you can find it again. It comes from Plexus Power Tools, which is a website. You pay $10 a year, and they have hundreds of amazing compliance approved and very professionally done documents and graphics and training tools. They have one on there that lists has every single product, has all of the ingredients in each product, and explains briefly what those ingredients are and how they work. It's a really great document. So that's one I always send to people and say, look this over and see how you feel about it, and then do any additional research that you need to on the individual ingredients. Also, I let them know that there are several products we have that really shouldn't be a source of contention even for somebody who's pregnant or nursing. You know, our ProBio 5 probiotics, the multivitamin, our X Factor, and our Mega X, the Omega Vitamin, our 96 protein shakes. All of those are products that any doctor would tell you you should be on, you know, when you're pregnant or nursing, that you want to be on a really good multivitamin that's going to help with absorption. You want to have good omegas. You want to make sure you're getting the non-synthetic folate, which your body's going to be able to absorb better. Folate's so important when you're pregnant. So there's a lot of products that we have that are not controversial for pregnancy and nursing. And then finally, my final thought on that is that in a lot of these cases with objections too, you just got to let people take their time and recognize that sometimes you're planting seeds. You know, some of my own customers and ambassadors are people who initially came to me, asked for some information, And then because they got pregnant or were nursing, decided to wait. They just didn't feel comfortable, and that's okay. 6 months or 9 months later, whenever it was that they were no longer pregnant or no longer nursing, they came back around and tried the products. And this is where consistency becomes huge. Because I was still consistently posting on Facebook, they would come back 6 or 9 months later. You know, if I had taken a month or two off at a time from posting, or even several weeks at a time from posting, the likelihood of them coming back later to try the products would be very low. Is there anything else that people want to share about that one, breastfeeding and pregnancy? No? Okay. Okay, probably the most common objection, we already mentioned this one too, is pricing. The thing to keep in mind when people bring up money as an issue, in a very, very, very small percentage of cases, they really just don't have the money. And then no matter what you say or what you do, they're not going to buy, and for good reason. I mean, we don't want people going into crazy debt for their Plexus products. That's not what we support. But in most cases, people can find the money. I've seen people on very, very small budgets. We were on a very, very, very small budget for our size family, and we made it work. And that's because usually when people bring up the pricing issue, it's either A, they're trying to cover for some other objection that's really their main problem, but it's easier to just say, I can't afford it. Or B, they don't see the value in it yet. So all they're seeing is the number. They're not seeing what the products can do for them. You know, I love this quote from Zig Ziglar. He's got an awesome book called Zig Ziglar's book, Closing the Sale. Awesome book. I highly recommend it. And he says, yeah, good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. So if somebody comes to you and tells you, hey, this is too expensive, tell them that. Say, you're right. At first I thought this was kind of expensive too, but you know what? Good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. And when I'm going to get supplements and put something in my body, I'm going to be sure that it's something that's good for my body and not harmful for my body. You know, there's a couple of other little techniques with pricing. I talked about how I do feel, felt, found, so that they can see how it might actually help them to save money. The other thing I do, and I'm sure many of you have heard of this, is we break it into smaller pieces. You know, when someone sees $85 a month or $80 a month, they think, oh, that's a big bill, right? But when you break it down to the cost per day, it becomes a much more manageable thing. You know, for me, I kept thinking I wasn't spending that much at Sonic. But when I really went through my credit card bill for a whole month, I was spending a lot at Sonic. It just didn't feel like a lot when I was only dropping $4 or $7 or $5 at a time. So a lot of times people don't realize. So you might help point out some things that they're spending money on and ask them to look at, what does that cost you monthly? And then let's compare to Plexus. What's that going to cost you on a daily basis? Any other thoughts on pricing objections? This is another one too that I really feel like timing is key. I've had lots of people, you know, when I first looked at Plexus myself, I said, nope, too expensive, not interested. But then Susan kept following up with me and adding value to the product. She'd send me another testimonial of a person with low thyroid issues. She'd send me another testimonial of a person struggling with milk supply because she knew I was having those problems. She'd send me another weight loss testimonial, something else she knew I was looking at. She'd send me a testimonial of somebody with sugar addiction issues, something else she knew I was struggling with because she'd asked all those questions. She would send me information about how easy it was to get my own product paid for, you know. And so as she did that, it added value to the product so that it was no longer overwhelming to me to look at the price. But really in the end, I think what it comes down to is sometimes circumstances will change, and what seemed too expensive initially, when those circumstances change, sometimes you just have to wait for people to get desperate enough. I know that sounds really bad, but desperate enough to want to try the products, desperate enough to change something in their life that they're willing to kind of take that leap. So again, don't beat yourself up if the very first time, you know, you have to deal with the price issue, they don't immediately jump on board. So anything else anybody want to add? I can't tell if people are adding things in the chat. That is a good point, Lindsay. You find the money for the things that are important to you. Also keep in mind with pricing that your customers are buying future enjoyment. So always be thinking about it from the angle of, what is this going to do for them? Not what is it going to do for me? Well, not what PV am I going to hit this month, but how is it going to help them? And if you can always approach it from that angle, you'll be a lot more successful. And I think it's you have more integrity that way. So, okay, a couple other quick objections. One, I think that I run into a lot as well, besides pricing, probably my second biggest one is safety. And you know what, again, I think it's important to empathize with people. I think it's important that people are researching the products and that they're a little bit cautious. There is a whole lot of garbage out there and some things that are really, really harmful. And so I always applaud people when they come to me with this concern. I say, I applaud you for looking into this. That's a smart thing to do. There's just too many companies out there that lie, too many things that aren't, handled well. For safety issue, I think the shield of confidence is extremely beneficial. Again, you're bringing up that point of if the company would not have had this kind of phenomenal growth if people were having problems with the products. If the products didn't work, it wouldn't grow this way. And then several testimonials. I like to share testimonials, especially of breastfeeding and pregnant women who got the products approved by their doctors. I think that shows just how safe the products really are. The other thing I like to do is make sure that they know that even though we're not FDA approved, we are FDA monitored. The FDA does check our products regularly to make sure that what we say is in them is actually in them and that there's nothing harmful in them. I think those are the main things on safety. And then again, when it comes to that shield of confidence and it says ingredients that are backed by a body of scientific research, I think it's important to understand we don't have to do all that research for our people. It's actually better in most cases to send them that ingredient list and then let them do their own research. We don't need to worry about defending Plexus. There's plenty of good information out there and they are going to find it. The amount of bad information out there is so small and usually from very bad sources that it's easy to go, that's just some random person's blog in their opinion. It's not a credible source like the Mayo Clinic or PubMed, so let them do some of their own research. If they need help, you can point them in some of the right directions, but don't get too hung up on that. The last one I want to talk about, well, two other ones. One thing I hear sometimes when it comes to the business, an objection I hear is, well, I just am really busy and I don't have time to do this. I love this one. I love what Celeste said to Roz. When Roz, our Diamond Upline, first started looking into this, she just told Celeste straight out. She's like, Celeste, I do not have time. I've got 2 kids that are really into theater. I'm working 3 jobs. I just don't have the time for this. And Celeste said, that's exactly why you need Plexus, because you need to get your time back. And this is going to allow you to do that. It's going to allow you to cut back on your hours at your other jobs. It's going to allow you more flexibility. I always like to share my own story in here too, because I've worked a lot of part-time jobs trying to make extra income from home, and there's never been anything so flexible as this. When I taught piano lessons, didn't matter if my kids were sick. Most of the time, I still held the lessons. It didn't matter if my kids were tired or needed my attention in that moment. I had to still teach the lessons, especially at the time of day that they most needed me. And so I've loved doing something that's super, super flexible. I love Katie Compton always talks about how she, does 99% of this business from her phone. I mean, what is more flexible than that, right? When someone's concerned about the fact that we're an MLM, I think that's the last objection we'll talk about real quick because I'm running out of time. I think my favorite way to deal with this objection, when someone brings up the fact, well, is this an MLM, is to answer with a question, because usually that kind of concern is coming from one of 2 places. Either they've done MLMs themselves and failed, so they assume that they're not good at network marketing and they're going to fail again, or it's coming from a place of, I've known network marketers in my life who've hounded me and harassed me, and I don't want to be that person that's hounding and harassing other people, right? That's the real fear under the objection of an MLM, is that is that's their view of what an MLM is. And so I like to respond with a question. If they say, oh, is that one of those MLM things? I say, yeah, have you ever done an MLM before? And get them talking about their experience with MLMs. Either they'll say, no, I haven't, but my aunt's done it, my friend's done it, and this has been their negative experience. Then you can address those concerns. Or they'll say, well, yeah, I've done these other 3 and I just failed at all of them. And then you can talk about why Plexus is different. You can talk about the fact that we don't carry any inventory. We're not asking you to make some big investment up front. I am shocked how many people or how many MLMs I've looked at recently. I've had lots of people, because I'm having success in one MLM, I have people approaching me from other MLMs asking me to look at theirs, and I'm shocked at how many of them have a startup cost of, $800, $1,000 just to get started. We don't have big upfront costs. We're not party-based. We don't have any taking of orders or delivery of orders. We don't handle money. And I think the biggest thing is we have amazing products that work, that appeal to a huge market. We're not selling purses that only women in a certain age range are going to look at. We're not selling makeup. Do you see what I'm saying? Our products are appeal to a huge, huge market, and they're really needed by a huge market of people. And then you can also point out just how different our comp plan is. I think the reason people are scared of MLMs is because they've had some kind of negative experience in the past, or they've heard a negative experience in the past. And you don't have to go into real detail. Again, this is not something where you have to know every in and out of the comp plan to successfully navigate a conversation with someone. I think what you do is you just point out, what's different about Plexus is our comp plan. It allows us to earn a really good income right from the beginning. And that's because the comp plan is set up to reward the individuals for their work. When I work hard, the money that I'm bringing into the company, it doesn't all go to paying 12 people above me who are just sitting back and doing nothing. In our company, it's completely possible, and I see it all the time, for people to outrank the people above them because the company rewards hard work. And, John shared this example just recently, but even in our own upline, Celeste Gwynn is a double diamond. She's the highest ranked ambassador in the entire company, the most successful. Her upline is a diamond emerald, again, very successful, but lower ranked than she is. Her upline above that is a sapphire ambassador, so not even a diamond, ranked much lower than the other two. And the girl above that is a senior gold ambassador. So it just goes to show it's not a pyramid scheme. You really are, it's direct sales, and you're rewarded for the work that you put in. And then depending on how argumentative you want to be, you can always point out what a wonderful pyramid scheme corporate America is, where there's one CEO at the top that's making out awesome, a very few a small handful of managers who are making out pretty dang good, and then the rest of us peons who are just kind of barely scraping by, just making enough of a wage to kind of get by on. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of how to address some of the most common concerns. At this point, we'll just open it up. If anybody has, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but if anybody has any questions or wants to comment ideas on how you approach some of these common concerns, I'd love to hear it.